What we want to plan on is universal programs that create a soft landing for people who are displaced. And that the baseline of that is free healthcare and free education. Because if we're going to get any kind of retraining, they need education.
What if I told you that every classical economist, from Adam Smith onward, predicted we'd eventually reach a world of abundance, one without scarcity or the need for human labor? They also said capitalism itself would become obsolete. With AI and automation pushing us toward that very future, are we finally approaching this turning point? Welcome to Beyond the Bite. I'm your host, Mo Hafez, and today's episode is all about the messy middle. The transitional period we seem to find our society in right now, with billionaires talking about universal basic income, the end of human labor, and the future of an AI-driven society that creates an era of abundance and the end of scarcity. It feels like we're moving from capitalism to something else. To help unpack this, I'm delighted to welcome today's guest, Adam Braus, who's going to help us explore a provocative idea for our post-labor economy. Libertarian socialism. Could this be the key to a stable post-labor society? Let's find out. Well, Adam, welcome to Beyond the Bite.
Thanks for having me. This is great, Mo.
It's a pleasure. Adam is an educator, entrepreneur, author, provocative thinker, and AI ethicist. He's the founder of Elton University and former director of Make School, which is a YC-backed combinator school. He's also the chair of Applied CS at Dominican University of California, and author of a bunch of thought-provoking books, including The Caging of the American Mind, How We Broke Higher Education and How to Fix It. I'm very interested in reading that, by the way. As well as The Future of Good, How to Tell Good from Evil in an Age of Distraction, Polarization and Crisis. Adam, you are quite an accomplished man. Thank you again for joining us.
I mean, I'm excited to be here. It's important to talk about the topics that you talk about on this podcast, so I'm excited to chat.
Fantastic. Well, Adam, let's cut straight to the most provocative idea. You argue that libertarian socialism is the next logical step in a post-labor economy driven by AI. Can you explain that?
That's right. Yeah. So basically, your audience is probably aware that AI is coming, and it's coming in a big way. The adoption rates of the abilities of the foundational models are just unbounded. The adoption rates by corporations, government, and even private individuals is just really fast. And it's going to replace a lot of jobs, and not just low-paid skilled, low-skill work. It's going to replace
white-collar
a lot of
jobs.
doctors and lawyers, and white-collar jobs, office workers and marketers and everything, right?
Yeah.
And so that's going to be basically, we are like pants around our ankles, like penguin stumbling into this future.
Yeah.
We're not prepared almost at all for what's about to hit us like a hurricane.
Yeah.
I believe, and a lot of other very smart people believe. I'm sort of standing on the shoulders of giants here. Lots of really smart people believe this.
Yeah.
And there's talk about, well, what will an economy that's a post-labor economy look like?
Yeah.
And what I have not heard in the discussion that I want to propose today is that the way to have a post-labor economy is for the government to tax the output of AI, and then give money and some essential services, but also money to people. And then that is going to be the future of the economy. It won't be as it's been since the Egyptians, based on working and then being paid for your work and then using that money from your work to go buy things. You'll just receive money as a dividend. Yeah. And people go directly to universal basic income with this, but I'll actually try to argue that the universal basic income would be the last thing, not the last because it's the worst, but the last chronological thing that you would do. And the first chronological things you would do is just what is commonly called democratic socialism. Yeah. So you would provide universal health care, you'd provide universal education for free up to 25 years old, 25 years old or 30 years old. You'd provide free, childcare, free parental leave. You'd make it so that there was 4-day work weeks or 3-day work weeks. Like all these things that people today call like socialism is really just the on-ramp to a post-labor AI-based economy. And so we should stop as libertarians or as people who are pro free markets and we actually need to stop being against these socialist policies.
Yeah.
And we need to start to embrace them if we're going to avoid a major cataclysmic crises that could turn into all kinds of bad things that we don't intend, whether it's bloody revolution or who knows, terrible things could happen that we don't really want to try to see. We don't want to tempt fate.
Now that's
kind of the argument. Yeah.
That's a truly bold idea. And I think it's bold because we know the writing is on the wall. As you mentioned, AI, you said AI is coming. I believe AI, it's already here. I mean, the transformation is happening as we speak. It's just a matter of adoption. But it feels like society is going in the opposite direction, or at least here in the United States. I think nobody wants to touch the word socialism with a 10-foot pole. We hear about, Bernie Sanders is always, coming out there and saying we need to tax the wealthy, but we are not getting any closer to that. This is why it's an interesting and bold idea. What would a modern AI-driven socialism even look like, right? So besides this idea of providing free healthcare, free education, all of that, talk to me about how the AI-driven revolution is going to propel that forward.
Yeah. Well, I think a key thing is for people to understand that socialism, most people don't understand what socialism is. Most people think that socialism is communism, which is where there's centrally planned economic growth and economic operations. But actually, that's not what socialism is. So socialism is 100% in favor of and supports free commerce and private property and starting businesses, all of that. So, and that's something I think people should just at the beginning just be very clear. Commerce, so owning private property and buying and selling things and working for people and being employed and blah, 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 that is not capitalism or socialism. Both capitalism and socialism contain commerce. So that's something to be clear of at first.
Yeah.
What socialism means is that you direct, I'll say what capitalism means is that you direct capital, you optimize the system of commerce and private property, you optimize it to build capital. And capital just means fixed machines and buildings, anything that's a fixed thing that once you build it, operates then for a period of time and increases income. That's all that is. So if you build a refrigerator, that's capital. If you build a truck, that's capital. If you build a refrigerator factory, that's like really capital, because it's like capital that builds capital, right? Or a truck factory. Or right. So AI is just capital. AI is a machine that can build a truck factory, right? It's like the ultimate capital, because it can just you build it once and it creates income from then on. So capitalism just means take human action, commerce, people trying to do things, helping each other, trading, everything that humans do, you bend it towards optimizing to building capital. Socialism just means you take that same system of commerce and trade and people working and trying things, inventing things, and you bend it towards improving human welfare and the welfare of animals too, the welfare of sentient beings. That's all that means. So you basically say, we don't care if we really create that much more capital. We don't need to optimize for capital anymore. We have a lot of capital. We still want to increase capital insofar as it helps the welfare of sentient beings, but you don't optimize for all things capital, right? You don't like throw the bodies of the workers into the, the machine and build the machine bigger, You say the machine's pretty good. Let's optimize for human welfare. So that's what the socialism is. And that's why I call it libertarian socialism, because you want it to be a form of commerce and a form of society that's maximizing human welfare, which means maximizing human freedom. So it's a free system of socialism. That might really sound strange to people, because they think of socialism as like authoritarianism or locking things down. But actually you can have a sort of libertarian socialism where it actually makes you far more free. An example would be universal healthcare. So if you today have no healthcare, then maybe you can't leave your job. Which means your freedom is limited.
That's correct.
Right?
The golden handcuffs.
But if you had, right, but if there was a tax that was on people, like 4% income tax, and like a 4% additional income tax, no one would even notice that, right? Like it would just be, it would just be another tax. People would just say, I pay a little more in taxes. But then everyone would have health care.
Yeah.
That would mean people could leave their jobs or change jobs or, whatever. Or employers could say, we don't have to think about paying all the premiums for all these friggin' workers. Like we can just do our work. We don't have to be like healthcare providers. So a universal healthcare system, like a Medicare for all system, or like they have in Canada or any number of places, would be actually increase people's freedom.
Yeah.
This is why it's like a libertarian socialism. Yeah. What you don't want is a form of socialism that reduces people's freedom.
Yeah.
So for example, you don't want to say, for example, like the higher educational system right now, no one can start a new college or university. That's part of my research, what my book is about.
Yeah.
No one can start a new college or university. But it's also highly socialized. It's all paid for by the government, these public schools and Pell Grants and everything. So in a way, we've built a sort of restrictive or authoritarian socialism around healthcare.
Yeah.
But we could undo that by liberalizing it, allowing people to start new colleges and universities. But we could preserve Pell Grants. We could preserve the payment of it.
Yeah.
Because the payment of it doesn't limit people's freedom. It actually enhances people's freedom. They can go to different schools. They can go to whatever school they want.
Yeah.
So I'm proposing this idea of this libertarian socialism where we're taxing AI, which is like corporate income, corporate profits and wealth taxes. And we're taking that money and we're maximizing human freedom and welfare through very careful social programs that only enhance freedom and don't limit people's freedoms.
Well, we dove right into this, Adam, and I think I want to kind of understand this. I want to to fully understand this provocative proposal. I kind of want to rewind. I want our audience to catch up with us because we're talking about free market economics and capitalism. The idea capitalism has been around for 300 years, and it really took off with the Industrial Revolution. But I'm not sure if a lot of people know that before capitalism we had feudalism, right? And we had before that we had
mercantilism.
Mercantilism. Yeah. And capitalism just really was the most recent economic model that really helped us utilize gains. And I believe socialism came as a kind of as a yin for yang, yin and yang for the capitalism. Even though I think socialism is an idea that's as old as Plato. From the Republic.
Sure. Just redistributing wealth is very old. Yeah.
Right. But I want to rewind a little. You've highlighted actually in your research, I've seen that you've highlighted that classical economists anticipated this post-scarcity and post-labor world.
Absolutely.
So can you unpack that for us?
Yeah. Every economist, Ricardo, Say, Adam Smith, Marx, obviously. But also, John Maynard Keynes. He wrote a fantastic paper. John Maynard Keynes, the greatest economist in the 20th century, arguably, wrote a little essay that I recommend everyone read if you want. It's just a 2-page essay, and it's called "The Economic Reality of Our Grandchildren's Children," which is us, right? Because he was he was born. He was basically like my grandparents' father's age. So our grandchildren's children would be like me, like us. Like maybe our children generation. Or maybe our children, like our generation and our children. Basically, he was writing this paper. And what he says is, this was in 1930, 1940, he wrote this paper. And he just said, if everything just continues, like if the growth rates and productivity rates just continue, then at our current wealth distribution, people who have a median income will make $350,000 a year.
Wow, he called it.
That's what he predicts.
It's predicted.
But the thing is the median income is only like $60,000 right now.
Yeah.
And that's because the wealthy have essentially transferred all that wealth to themselves.
Yeah.
And essentially robbed it from the workers. Whereas in 1940, 1950, the wealth distribution was way more equitable.
Yes.
And so the median income was whatever it was, it's probably $10,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
But he just tracked up and said, well, if we just follow the trend lines in 75 years or 100 years, the median income, that's like a plumber, would be making $350,000 a year. And that's actually true. If you look at our current wealth distribution and income distribution, if you adjusted it for the 1940s, it would be that. The median income would be $350,000.
If humans weren't greedy.
Right. Well, I don't know if humans are greedy, but if the wealthy hadn't been able to pull off pretty much the greatest heist in history, which was to like convince everybody that they should like pay no taxes and
trickle down economics.
And when I say the wealthy, and when I say the wealthy, I do not mean anyone who works for their money. So like a high-powered lawyer, high-powered doctor. I'm not called. Even if they make $1 million a year,
the capitalists.
I'm talking about people who sit back. Right, they sit back. They own 25 houses and $200 million of stock and bonds, and that makes them all their money. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Never talking about work. Anyone who works is not an owner. Yeah. Even if they're very wealthy, maybe they have some they have some they have some equity stocks and things. 2 houses, 5 houses. Okay, that's still peanuts compared to what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the true, world runners.
Yeah. But you believe that now is the time. And I think you believe now is the time because AI has accelerated that arrival. I mean, we're looking at this future where AI and robotics, embodied AI, we're going to get a lot of these tasks that used to require human labor and human minds to be offloaded to machines, to the point that even the tech billionaires are talking about how, do humans really need to labor? And we've actually seen over time that humans have had to labor less and less. In other words, we've actually been able to get back more of our time. And so this trend is obviously continuing, perhaps to a point where we don't have to work at all. So you're saying that now, because we're on the cusp of this, because we're on the cusp of AI, really, we're doing it. We're actually at this point now where we can just sit back and enjoy the fruits of the labor that our technology can bring to us. Right. That this is the time when we need to start adopting this.
Yeah. And this is exactly what classical economists predicted. So total free market economists, Adam Smith, Ricardo, say these guys were like, they're the basis of free market economics. They say, if we follow the principles of free market economics and capitalism, if we continually improve capital, more and more factories, more and more automated factories, right? Then eventually we'll get to the point where everything is automated. They predicted this. They didn't know what, transformers are. They don't know what agentic AI is. They didn't know, but they knew that every year things would get more automated. And that meant if you just drew the line, eventually everything would be automated, or 95% of things would be automated, right? Yeah. And so they said, without a doubt, we will basically achieve some sort of socialistic paradise where no one has to work. Yeah. And that's irrefutable. That's what these economists all said. In a way, Marx, who I like to dog on Marx, but at the same time, it's important. It's like impossible not to talk about him because he's emblematic of some of these ideas. But actually, Marx was like, he didn't really have any original ideas. And people don't really realize this. Like, Marx just took what the other economists were saying and he put a populist gloss on it. That's all Marx did. He didn't, labor theory of value, that's exactly what Adam Smith said the theory of value was. Adam Smith says that the owner takes 95% of the value of a productive process and 5% goes to labor. Adam Smith said that. Marx just took that and turned it into this like, oh my God, this kind of rhetorical sort of, oh my God.
And it was anti-capitalist. I mean, it was very,
it was just anti-owners.
Right. So that's what
he saw that as an injustice. He saw that as an injustice. Adam Smith didn't really see it as injustice. Adam Smith just said, look, I've made this discovery. Look at this interesting thing. 95% of the value goes to the capitalists. That's weird, But Marx was like, that's a horrible injustice. And so he turned it in, but he didn't add a single new idea, really. That was pretty much, he just was So you can talk about Marx, but really you don't have to talk about Marx. You can just talk about free market economists predicting the same thing, which is that we would end up not having to work at all.
So we started this conversation referring to the current economic situation as being kind of like the messy middle. And I say that because we are very much a capitalist society. We see that going, actually continuing to be even more capitalist. I mean, right now we're looking at, the one-person billion-dollar company that's run by AI agents, right? So we're still thinking with this capitalist mindset. And not only that, but, our policies don't seem to reflect socialism whatsoever. We are seeing people lose jobs, and thousands of jobs are going away. The government sector, which used to be the safest place to be, is no longer the safest place to be, as people who have government jobs are also losing their jobs. And at the same time, we're seeing this, a lot of things happen. Inflation, people are having a hard time being able to afford the current economic conditions, and everybody's thinking, well, we gotta survive. But there are people in this industry, in this economy, that are doing quite well. So the forces are kind of not aligned here, right? We do see a kind of a crazy misalignment. So this is I would say that if there is a transition or a transition that needs to happen, as you're saying, it's going to be quite awkward at this point. Like, in other words, it doesn't look like an easy transition. So, how will AI help us realize that this transition needs to happen sooner rather than later?
Well, I mean, I think there's like, it's like when the guy says to you, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. Like the easy way, I think, is, either the elites realize that actually, universal healthcare and free education and like just baseline, support for people to eliminate poverty and, simplify the job market, 3-day work week, which will add a bunch of jobs. Because if you do a 3-day work week, someone has to do that work still. So you have to hire more people, these kind of things. The wealthy see these as very expensive, but that's because they're thinking with a backwards view towards a scarcity mindset. The reality is that these are very, very cheap compared to the alternative. So the alternative is, I think, cataclysmic revolution. Like, I think we're going to get to the point where, Luigi Mangione is like the least of our problems. You know what I mean? Like, I think there'll be a lot of people who get disenfranchised. Think 2008 crisis on absolute steroids. People will be completely disenfranchised, and these people will not be like poor uneducated people. These will be like educated people who have some money because they were, a doctor, they were an accountant, and now they're out of a job, and so are 80% of accountants, and they'll be radicalized by that experience if they have nothing to go back on and they have no life.
You don't think they'll be able to retool fast enough and leverage AI and be able to pick up their really? Okay.
The evidence so this happened already with the internet. So the internet came, and Clinton said, let's normalize trade with China. Let's push all our manufacturing to China. And the whole story was, we'll retrain those workers in the Rust Belt. It never happened, and it just doesn't happen. It's really, 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 I'm an educator. I know this. It's extremely hard to retrain people. It basically doesn't happen. It's such a small number. It's 15, 20% of people you can retrain. Most people you just cannot retrain. They just become disenchanted workers, and they just sort of, they they putter around their houses, and their communities collapse and become the Rust Belt. They become poor, opioid fueled, places of despair, and so the AI revolution seems to be happening about 3 to 4 times faster than the cloud, like internet revolution happened. So that means it's going to happen even faster. Right. So no, I don't think we want to plan on that. What we want to plan on is universal programs that create a soft landing for people who are displaced. And that the baseline of that is free healthcare and free education. Because if we're going to get any kind of retraining, they need education. Right. So it should be just free. People should just be able to walk in and just start getting education. They shouldn't have any kind of barrier.
Right.
And the same thing with healthcare. If they lose their healthcare, just the comorbidities that come with a lack of access to healthcare, the social ills and comorbidities with that are just unthinkable. I mean, it's just awful. What will happen to people. So I think those are the two most simple ones. And then I think you could do a lot of other things too. Like I said, you adopt a 3-day work week. Well, that'll add about 30% more jobs because people will still need to do those other 2 days of work. So you have to hire more people. That's good. You know, I mean, it's make work, but it's good. That's like what we want. We want some make work to create a bit of a cushion.
Well, the statistics absolutely support what you're saying, because, you know, the World Economic Forum, I've spewed off the statistics before, but the World Economic Forum has mentioned that, you know, in the most recent jobs report of 2025, they said that 39% of current skills are going to be outdated. You know, 59%.
I think that's low.
59% of the global workforce will need to be reskilled for sure. So these numbers are massive, and you're right. I look at this and I realize there's a massive problem right now of reskilling. This concept of AI literacy, I don't think people understand. This is something that's really, really important, because, as you mentioned, you know, it's an adapt or die situation, and the machines are moving very fast. Our reliance on AI is very fast. And you mentioned that healthcare and education are going to be the most basic requirements that we need to start
and
giving
housing also. I mean, if people lose their houses, even if they have healthcare and education, it doesn't matter. They have to have housing too. So housing, healthcare, education need to essentially be 100% assured to everyone.
And we should be able to provide those.
The easiest way to do that is with taxes and not like the czar of housing gets to decide where, you know what I mean? You don't want to create an authoritarian, centrally planned form of socialism. You want to create a libertarian market form of socialism, which means this is the difference between this is the difference between the British system of universal healthcare is called the NHS, the National Health System, and that's an actual centrally planned. The government runs all the hospitals, they run all the clinics and hospitals. If you're a doctor, you're an employee of the government. That's not what we want, and it's not a good system. It doesn't have great outcomes. It's locked up in all kinds of. It can't innovate. It can't improve very fast, right? What you want is like the Dutch system or the German system, or the Canadian system, where the government is just a health insurance company. But all the actual doctors and nurses and hospitals, those are all private institutions. They're all innovating, competing with each other, trying to provide better healthcare. But the payer behind it is the government. So that's the form where you're trying to create a libertarian form of socialism, not an authoritarian. So if you're going to try to do that with housing in the United States, the first thing you do is you get rid of all the NIMBY policies that are preventing new housing from being built. That's the first thing, because that's just liberating the free market to actually do what it's good at, build more housing. And then you begin to say, hey, we're going to, like right now, the government already does a lot of protections for commercial building. So if you go and say, I'm going to go build this big commercial tower, the government will say, okay, if this commercial tower fails, we'll backstop your loans. And that's already the case for commercial buildings. They should just add that for residential buildings. They should just add so that the government is backstopping loans to build new housing. So these are things where now private developers are going to build housing, sell it to private citizens, right? It's all the market, but actually there's like a socialistic backstop that's stimulating the whole thing to improve human welfare. So you want this very light, very creative, very light hand supporting in just the right places to then maximize, people being comfortable at their house and safe and.
And the technology solutions are out there. I mean, as you mentioned, you're talking about how these need to be provided. I'm looking at right now at AI, at education. Education, AI is set to revolutionize education, make it so that everybody can have personalized learning. Knowledge is now available to any child who is able to, access an AI chatbot interface responsibly. We're talking about how AI is going to revolutionize healthcare and allow us to be able to have a more personalized healthcare experience. And even with housing, we're talking about the advent of 3D printing housing. And make how much that'll, how easier that'll be in terms of creating new housing. So all of that's there, but these technological advancements are being looked at as from an industrialist perspective, from a capitalist perspective of, if I have a company that can 3D print houses, if I have a company that does, education with AI or healthcare AI, I'm going to want to charge money for it. All right. And so, they're
then they should charge money for it. They should charge money for it.
So then how do we subsidize it? Because you're talking about the government. The government's one thing, but you're talking about these, tech billionaires that are going to be the ones that are going to benefit from a lot of these technologies. How do we get the shift to happen? Right.
I mean, it's not that complicated. This isn't talked about much because the wealthy don't want it to be talked about, but it's actually pretty well established how you do this. There's various forms of taxation of wealth that are extremely, I keep talking about kind of a light hand, you don't want government to come in and smash and authoritarian, take control of everything. It's like you're applying a clutch to a giant spinning wheel, right? You want to apply the clutch. If you apply the clutch so hard that you stop the wheel, you kind of kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. So you want to apply this clutch to this wheel and bleed off some of the excess benefits to create a baseline level of human welfare for everyone. This doesn't mean people can't be absurdly wealthy. This doesn't mean people can't be billionaires. Oh, they shouldn't be billionaires. Like that's an academic. I mean, that's just like a moralizing question to say, should there be billionaires? Well, the reality is should we make sure I don't care if they're billionaires. I only care that there's no one starving in the streets. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but not everybody thinks that way.
Stop people from being billionaires.
Yeah, the problem is there's this aspect of
everybody.
but I mean, don't you? I mean, the fundamental aspect of capitalism is, hey, that's not my problem. You should be able to go and using the sweat from your brow, be able to make the money that I was able to make, and I'm given the same opportunities and blah blah blah. And I don't think that's true, by the way. Like I think that sometimes people take for granted the opportunities that they were given. But they don't. But that thinking isn't prevalent, is what I'm saying.
Well, I wouldn't. So this is something maybe I can do a little mind shift on this conversation. So what you're describing isn't really capitalism. That mindset. That's like sort of rugged individualism. Which is part of the American culture, and I think it's a pretty admirable part of it.
Yeah.
But capitalism actually takes a huge amount of government subsidies, huge amounts of just handouts from the government to people.
Yeah.
In order to run capitalism. So capitalism meaning, remember, bending towards optimizing the production of capital, which commerce just on its own, if you just did a free market. With no actual investments from the government, no, preferential stuff, it wouldn't produce as much capital as if you really emphasized capital, right? You really tried to produce as much capital as possible. Yeah. For example, capital gains taxes are lower than income taxes. In a free market, you would just tax everything the same because you don't care about capital. The idea that the capital gains tax is lower is to incentivize making more capital, investment. Right.
Yeah.
So that itself is a capitalist thing. But look at the military industrial complex, or look at the space industry, or look at the energy industry. These are entirely subsidized industries. They already actually, in a way, look the way I'm describing. The rest of the economy should be designed. So the same way that the space industry is entirely paid for by the federal government through taxes. Right. And then SpaceX can become a multi-billion-dollar, $100 billion business. It's only getting incomes from the government, almost entirely, right? Maybe it sends up satellites for some other people, but mostly it's the government.
Yeah.
So that's the same. I'm just saying, let's run housing the same way, right? You can still have free businesses and innovation and startups, but the buyer is going to often be either the government directly, or it's going to be people with money who have money because the government gave them money.
I see.
Whether it's through make work program or a federal job, or through or some kind of basic income,
or stimulus checks, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, which is a basic income, right? Some kind of basic income. Yeah. I'm not in favor of the basic income now. I mean, we could get a small one started so that we were ready to kind of turn the knob up in the future.
Yeah.
But right now, far more important than that is universal healthcare, education, and making sure we have universal housing.
Yeah.
And a basic income doesn't really fix all of that. I also think we should have a federal job guarantee. So it's also there's very clear data that psychologically it's very damaging, especially for men. Not to be sexist, but the data really says it quite clearly. Women, when they get unemployed, as a trend, this isn't all women, but the majority of women, they respond in a much more psychologically healthy way. They start to sort of pay attention more in their homes to their family members and their loved ones. They start to like volunteer.
They lean into the caregiver aspect.
Yes. And they also retrain much easier. They're like, oh, I'm going to go take a class and become a nurse. They like retrain very easily. They're very open to it. Most women. This is like 60, 70% of women. This is very well studied. I'm not just, Andrew Yang talks about this too. But men don't. Men kind of lean into like, like what is it? Porn, gambling, sitting around at home watching TV, smoking pot, playing video, what you and we're laughing
because all of a sudden I get there's that whole like God.
Right.
Got nothing. What am I going to do?
Why don't you retrain as a radiology technologist? You go like, fuck that. I don't retrain as a radiologist. You know what I mean? Like, so men suffer a lot psychologically and sociologically. They are the bearers of a lot of these social ills. And you can think of it, just look at suicide rates, look at opium overdose rates, look at these are all men. It's a predominantly male thing, which is bad. I mean, women also suffer under it, and they suffer the consequences of their men
having to deal with that. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But so the reality is something like a federal job guarantee is really important psychologically. Yeah. So we need to have like, whether it's a Green New Deal or just an ongoing bunch of infrastructure projects, and you just need to be able to walk into a Social Security office and be like, I'd like to have a job. And they just slap a shovel in your hand and they're like, you have a job. Because if you don't have that, you're just going to have all these men who are just out of work and are just like total like dreg.
What risks
myself
do you
included.
See, what risks do you see if we fail to manage this transition effectively?
I cannot describe how dangerous what we're going into is. This is from a perspective of history. I mean, I've studied, I have a classics degree, so I can talk about history back to, ancient times. It is not good at all when you have a bunch of out of work people. That is the powder keg of revolution, and not even just like smart revolution, just powder keg of let's overturn the apple cart. Let's burn things down. Let's just mess with things. I don't think it's because we had, the American Revolution which was a positive revolution, didn't happen because, there was too many people out of work. The French Revolution happened because of that. And that turned into the reign of terror and burning down cities. And, I think the wealthy especially need to really reckon with this.
Yeah, and we talk about how, there's a lot of risks right now beyond just, we talked, it used to be marginalized groups, right? We used to talk about how it's going to be the marginalized groups that are going to be the first to suffer, and we'll have to figure something out for that. But nowadays, as you mentioned, it's not marginalized groups. It's white collar jobs. It's as you mentioned, it's doctors and lawyers. So it's now that it's really drilling into this highly educated professional class. I think your argument about what we should be fearing here if we don't manage the transition is very true. So now, how does climate factor into this economic and social transition? I mean, we talk about the climate cost of a lot of what's happening.
It completely destabilizes. It makes this. It's not good. It's not good. This is bad. We are in a bad situation. I don't know how to describe how bad. It's so bad. This is like, if we just had the AI problem, like this question of transitioning to a labor free economy, essentially, then that would be a huge problem and a huge challenge. The fact that on a completely different
plane
of the issue, the climate is rapidly changing and going to cause mass migration, fires, hurricanes, displacement. I mean, displacement is going to be the biggest issue. That's what a lot of people don't seem to be talking about. I don't care if the ocean goes up by 3 feet. I care if the ocean goes up in certain places and 50 million people then flee in over 2 months, they all flee to some other part of the world. That is a far greater problem. And that's what's going to be the biggest problem is migrations. So no, the climate makes this a really big problem. Like, we're about to be in like a load of pain, especially working people. And by working, I mean doctors, lawyers, as well as, marketers, everyone you can think of, white collar down, are going to be in a load of pain. And the billionaires are going to have, internet connections to their bunkers with AI robots running their factories. So they're not going to care,
Have you ever seen the movie Parasite? One of my favorite. If you've ever seen the movie Parasite, one of my favorite things about that movie is how it shows how climate affects different social classes, and it disproportionately affects
because it rains.
Yeah, and so the rain tends to affect the ones below. And,
the rain.
And so when we take a look at, as you mentioned, this idea of the climate. Remember how during COVID a lot of the billionaires we're all in the same boat, except your boat is way bigger than mine.
Right. So, and their boat's actually a boat. I mean, they actually
literally floats.
So as the oceans go up, they can go up.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think I'm an idealist, and I like to believe that there's this saying, necessity is the mother of invention. And you're saying here, it's bad. And yes, I mean people bad. Like you and I, we see what's coming. And we can already project how bad it's going to be. But I want to believe, and I choose to believe, in human creativity and human innovation being able to find find solutions to these upcoming problems. And I think AI and technology is going to be absolutely part of that solution, if not the solution. I mean, I don't want to say I just saw the movie Superman, and I can't tell you, one of the things I thought about that film was I was like, is Superman being compared to AI as the savior that's going to come help us and fix everything and make the world a better place? I picked up a little bit on that, like it was an analogous to AI being that because we all need that right now. We're all looking at the world, and there's a lot of things going wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that AI could be it, Adam. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like we can innovate our way out of this?
Let me tell you my more likely prediction of what's going to happen. Can I tell you my prediction?
Sure.
So my prediction is that we will have mass adoption of AI, which will lead to mass unemployment. So we'll have, 50, 60% unemployment, and people will start to, kill people, blow up capital, cross their trucks across the highway like this, right? And right as that starts to happen, using AI, billionaires will develop a designer virus that will kill like 1/5 of the people of the planet. That's what will happen. And that will keep everyone indoors, which will prevent the destruction of capital. And the billionaire tech people will be able to say, we are here to save you. We will deliver your food every day to your house. We will protect you from the virus by automating absolutely everything and delivering your food, the total technologification of the society. And people will say, thank you so much. But actually it will have been created by those people. They will have created that. That's what I actually predict will happen. And in a way, it's a good option. That's actually a good option, I think.
But that's really nefarious. That sounds like something out of a Tom Clancy novel.
Yeah.
You're talking about engineering a virus.
There's a reason Tom Clancy writes those novels. Because because the billionaire class are convinced that we have except for Elon Musk, the normal billionaire is not Elon Musk. Kind of a weird billionaire actually, because he actually created something. Most billionaires didn't create anything. So that's what people have to remember. The ultra wealthy, we usually think of Bill Gates or Bezos or Elon or Musk, but actually those are the very, very rare exceptions. They actually created something. They're actual entrepreneurs who actually invented, made something. The vast majority of billionaires just did financial engineering. So they just basically tricked the financial markets into giving them billions of dollars. They inherited their money. Or they have government contracts, which in some ways Musk is really just in that category. He just got government contracts. And That's the majority of billionaires. So they're not like, oh yeah, how do we like fix problems and make the world better? They're not like that. They're like, how do I make it so that we engineer the system so that I and my family are good and like we own the whole world. That's the plan, you know. So yeah, I think that's what'll happen. This is part of the reason why it's really important for us to stop developing AI and have there be like a government like moratorium to really, really stop. We need to treat AI like nuclear weapons or nuclear power, where there's like inspectors who show up like and are there in the room listening at every every team meeting, and who can say like, okay, no, we're gonna like stop working on that affordance and we're gonna work on this other and if we don't do that, I think we're in a really a dark situation. That's actually a best case scenario, the pandemic scenario. I think a more likely scenario is that won't happen, and actually we'll have really terrible, migrations of people from climate change together with mass unemployment, which means mass homelessness, which means mass despair and death. And then maybe a pandemic starts just because there's mass migrations, and then that kills tons of people. So it's not good. I really believe we are like blood in the streets. We are like, really.
Well, I was going to say, what worries me about everything that you're saying is that everything you're saying, we're doing the opposite of right now.
Yeah, we're doing the wrong.
Like you're talking about a moratorium on AI, with no, like that. If anything, we're going in the exact opposite. Which, and personally, I believe that there is absolutely, the full-on let's AI everything is not necessarily the right answer. I mean, this is part of what I preach to a lot of my clients and to the audience is, it's the mindful application of AI, not just let's AI everything. There's places where it doesn't belong. But beyond that, also, as you mentioned, this idea of providing social services, we're going in the opposite direction there, where we seem to be gutting. We're moving towards gutting a lot of these services.
Yeah,
and everything's moving to more private models.
Unless you see, this is the thing though, you have to remember that like the military is what I'm describing. It's a socialist program, and the military already pays for like 10% of the American economy, and space, all of NASA. That's all just socialism. That's just the government buying things, right? The same thing can be said for the energy market. I mean, oil and fossil fuels are almost entirely subsidized, because if the subsidies went away, they would be so expensive no one would be able to use them. So they're essentially entirely subsidized. So that's all socialism too. So we actually don't have like a free market economy at all. Like the economy is mostly socialist, the entire energy economy, the entire military economy, the weapons. I mean, America's biggest export and biggest production is weapons, which is bought mostly by the government, by the military, and by police forces and coast guards. And so that means that's all what I'm describing. That's all socialism in the way that I'm describing it. Right. So actually in some ways we are going in this way. We're just going towards it in like a highly destructive, authoritarian, awful way, like the enlargement of ICE, right? So ICE was enlarged to be, I think, 80 billion or 200 billion, some huge number of tens of billions of dollars budget. 80 billion, right? 80 billion, and $80 billion is now going to ICE agents. There's a $40,000 signing bonus and a $100,000 salary for these ICE agents. That's just socialism. That's just make work for men who are unemployed, who can't I mean, it's the same thing. It's just a really awful kind of authoritarian police way of doing it, instead of like having them build green energy, solar power plants or something. You know what I mean? Like they could be doing the same thing, but just on the side of actually making the world better.
Might this be the extra push in a very capitalist, industrialist direction to then, usher us into this other age you're talking about, in order, the last squeeze, let's make sure our billionaires are ready to go for this? I mean, you see what I'm saying here, right? Like the idea of let's get things to be so bad, and then we have to reverse it.
This is called accelerationism, right? Accelerationism means we'll get things so bad that then they'll have to get better. This unfortunately does not work. It turns out, as Americans, we have like this positive view of life. We think things are always going to get better because in our history, things have always gotten better in America. Like if you just look at the history of America, it's just constantly gotten better. So we think things will get better. But actually in the history of the world, things often get way worse and then they get even worse and then they just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So accelerationism is quite dangerous. There's no actual reason for something to get worse for it to then get better. It's actually usually if you establish that it's gotten worse, it'll just keep getting worse based on the steps you took before. So if we just invest more and more in like a police state and we don't respond to the climate crisis, but we do invest in a police state, then it'll continue the next time there's a crisis from the climate or from the economy, we'll have many, many, many militarized policemen there to suppress any kind of like uprising. And it'll also signal that we need more police officers and militarized, stuff to suppress the even bigger issue, right? So we'll continue to get worse and worse and worse. I think we'll probably turn into a society much like the ancient Egyptian society. That's the most stable form of society, which is, there's a fraction of 1% of people on the very top who own everything. And then everyone else is just slaves who are policed by, guys with whips. Yeah. That's probably what we'll end up being, I think.
History repeating itself.
Because that's just such a stable society. Yeah. It's just so stable.
We're moving towards techno-pharaohs.
Yeah. Techno-feudalism is what Giannis, what's his name? Giannis Farkas or whatever he calls it. I think, techno-feudalism is probably the more likely outcome. But actually, I think more techno-Egyptian that's more likely even than because feudalism had like these little guys, like these little like lords who had they had a lot of freedom actually. But the Egyptian system, there was no freedom all the way down. Yeah. And I think that's probably what we're going towards, which is why we should go towards the opposite. We should go towards a libertarian socialism that maximizes freedom of everyone. People at the bottom, the top, everyone has maximized freedom. Yeah. So yeah. But you're right that we're going in the opposite direction.
That's what that's as I mentioned. That's what definitely. That's what it feels like. So Adam, you appear to be frozen on my screen. I don't know if you're.
You freeze occasionally, but I keep hearing you, so the audio doesn't seem to be cut out.
Yeah. Well, I'll push forward here. I just wanted to point it out, just in case there was a way we can.
Should I refresh? I can refresh.
Yeah, try that. We can cut this out.
What about that?
Oh, there we go. That's better. All right. Awesome.
Back. Okay. Refresh.
Yeah. So I want to pull us out of this really dark place.
I know. So do I.
and I think I'm a firm believer in that. Solutions. Now is the day. Yeah, solutions. Solutions.
I have some solutions.
You have solutions. I want to talk about solutions. So let's talk. I was gonna go into talking about education as a crucial pillar for navigating the transition. That's a big one. So you're a fellow educator. You're also a professor. And so what role do you see education playing in navigating this transition?
Well, I mean, I would prefer society to turn into. Like, I would actually prefer to see like college, the experience of being in college be people's entire lives in a post-labor economy. Because what do you do in college? You're completely free, right? You can go and do anything.
You're
right?
surrounded.
You live in an environment. Okay. Yeah, you're surrounded by community. Yeah. You have maximum freedom. And you're learning, growing yourself in all these different ways. Socially, you have interesting new experiences all the time. You have interesting relationships that are very meaningful for you. I think that should be the model of society. I think we should try to make it so that housing is built around communities where people don't have to be constantly crisscrossed by, dangerous cars. I mean, they can have cars, but build the communities so that the cars go around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, people should be maximum freedom. There's, they can get food whenever they want affordably. And so I think college is really important. We can't lose college. We need to actually expand college,
make it more accessible to everybody. Yeah.
More. Yeah.
And open it up.
I think education is very important.
And I think and I see you're an artist because based on the background here. So I think, everyone used to laugh at a liberal arts degree. But now I think that if anything, the liberal arts degrees might make a roaring comeback in this new age of AI.
There's a kind of, I have a little piece that I wrote about liberal arts. I think right now the way we think of liberal arts is a certain curriculum, history and philosophy and stuff, math maybe, but the reality of what liberal arts are actually is what Aristotle called liberal arts were the arts that are worthy of and support a free person living in a free society. So actually those would change in every phase of whatever society you live in.
Yeah.
So like today you can't really be a free person if you can't make money. So today, actually learning something that can actually earn you money is a liberal art. It must be by definition because it supports a free person living in a free society. So what it actually means to be a liberal arts education today is, I think, very much an open question because we don't actually have that anymore. No university in our system is a liberal arts university. None of them, because none of them actually say what education would lead people to be freer, and then pursue that. Instead, they say, well, we're going to do liberal arts, which is this sort of antiquated sort of, humanities degree, or we're going to do an economics degree or a business degree or something. But it's lost on this focus on freedom is lost. Can you tell that I'm into freedom? I'm big into freedom.
As we should all be. I mean, it's a fundamental human right.
True freedom. True freedom. Not just, you could do it if you had money in your bank account, but you actually can do it.
Yeah.
That money stops being a barrier to you being able to flourish and make choices and do things.
And that's the promise of this. Peter Diamandis talks about, the age of abundance, right? And this is the idea behind abundance is that when we move to this age of abundance, the idea is that money should no longer really hold any real value. We don't need to hoard anything, right? Yeah. We're going to optimize everything to the point where supply and demand are going to meet. We're going to know that equilibrium point. Everything's going to be equitably distributed. And so, we won't really need money anymore. We'll just be able to function as a society. So then truly, as you mentioned,
you'll need money. Yeah. You'll need money because money is just a great information system, but it'll stop being money in the sense that I think you might have meant it, which is like, I don't have enough money.
Yeah, I can't do this.
That will be gone.
Limits my freedom.
You'll have the money. Yeah, you'll have the money to do what you need to do. And so money becomes almost, it's there, but it's immaterial. It's like a rich person.
Yeah.
Like a rich person just goes to the grocery store. They just put what they want in the cart and they
don't think about it.
They just swipe their little card. They don't think about it.
Yeah.
That'll be like everyone should be like that. Everyone should just go to the grocery store, put things in their cart, walk out of the grocery store, not care. They still pay.
Yeah.
But they have enough money to then not worry about it, right?
Yeah.
So money's a fantastic. I always like to say money was the first internet.
Yeah.
Right?
Money was the first internet.
Because you could say, like, say you were in like Rome, you could be like, oh man, wheat in Carthage is only 16 shekels a pound. But here, wheat is 32 shekels a pound.
I'm going to go get it in Carthage.
I'm going to take a boat from Carthage and bring it here.
Yeah.
That's the internet. That's like, hey, I want to buy this thing from Amazon. Press a button on my phone. It comes from the warehouse.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's an information system.
Correct.
So I see money as the first internet. And it needs to go back to being that. It needs to stop being a political tool to make some people a certain class and other people another class who have different privileges. We need to get rid of that and just make it so money's this information system where people can say, oh, I need that. And other people can be like, great, here you go. Oh, I need this. Oh, okay, great. Here. It's a signal of what you need and what you want being shot around.
But all this needs to be part of the narrative, and it needs to be something that educators put out there. We need to when you think about it, and this is one of my worries. This is truly what keeps me up at night is that, higher education, and this is why I mentioned I want to read your book, but higher education feels like it's becoming more and more irrelevant every day. Most people nowadays, if they want to learn skills that are going to help them out in the real world, they're going to YouTube University. They're learning how to run agentic AI.
That's how I learned how to paint.
There you go, YouTube University.
I learned how to paint on YouTube University. I never took a single formal class.
And that's what a lot of young men and women are doing, and not just young men and women, professionals. I mean, because of the all of this digital information that we now have available at our fingertips, it is easier than ever to pursue a new hobby, to train a new vocational skill. But where does that leave the higher education universities? And you mentioned how it is quite difficult to start a university. And so
basically impossible. Yeah.
So that puts the onus on the current existing institutions to
refuse to improve,
but that's going to have to change. I mean,
it doesn't have to change. We could just have a crappier and crappier society, right? This is the principle of inshidification. Have you heard of inshidification?
I have not heard of inshidification.
Oh yes, you must. Everyone must Google inshidification. It just means things getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, but I mean, something has to give, right? It
doesn't have to. It doesn't have. It would be good if something changed. Yeah, but this is called reform.
Yeah.
And reform means you need revolution. I mean, somebody needs to go to the powerful and wrest the power away from them. They won't just do it. These universities, the university market is $400 billion a year. It's the same as cars.
Yeah.
It's the same as cars. Do you think the 3,000 colleges and universities who get to divide $400 billion 3,000 ways will want you to be able to come in and get some of that $400 billion? No. They don't want you to be able to take part of their pie. So they block you from doing it. It's called a cartel. It's not capitalist it is somewhat capitalist, but it's not free market. And it's not, it's not good commerce.
Again, I was trying to take education and talk about it in a hopeful way. And
oh, we can be hopeful. We can be hopeful.
Because the way I see it is if people stop going to colleges and universities, right? Like I lecture at Johns Hopkins. I believe that we can improve the curriculum. I believe that we can make the curriculum better. We can teach the right stuff. We can teach ethics. We can talk about all these things that are important to essentially bring a new generation of humans that know how to function in this new society. And I think that there's a saying that I really love. I mentioned it a lot. The idea of philosophy eats AI, right? This aspect of when we talk about AI as this big automation thing that's going to do all this stuff. Well, then, and AI creates and can do this. Well, what does it mean now to be a human, right? What's our purpose if everything can just be done? Yeah. So philosophy eats AI, which means that as humans, we really need to go back and read philosophy and understand what the point of all this is. Like, why are we building all this stuff up? Why do we even have this whole society in the first place? What are we trying to do, right? What does it mean to be a human? Especially and you mentioned, when males have no jobs now, what should they do, right? Like if they're not going and working.
Besides porn and pot.
Right,
games.
Exactly. I mean, I see.
I think we should get them a job. That's the thing. We can't. There is.
But do they need it though? Maybe
they need it. Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah.
Maybe they should just paint and create music and act.
We should give them. Yeah, we should give them jobs as painting then or something. People aren't just gonna. They aren't just going to sort of change. Let me put it this way: the social contract that people work and then are rewarded for their labor and then go and live their lives is about 3,000 years old.
Yeah.
So. We haven't really found an alternative in those 3,000 years.
It's as old as time, yeah, basically, right.
Yeah. Extremely wealthy people could give you an example of this, right? So extremely wealthy people don't have to work, and they're extremely unhappy and lonely. So the levels of disappointment, depression, loneliness, sadness, bad negative affect among the extremely wealthy is super high. They're not happy. It's not healthy to be that wealthy, actually. It's not good. I mean, people want to because it's like, that's the goal. Get rich, make a lot of money. Oh, I want to make more money. But actually it won't. It doesn't just not make you happy. It literally makes you sad and alienated and alone. And, look at Elon Musk. He's super depressed. He does ketamine and all these other drugs to try to distract himself from his extreme sadness and alienation.
He's also trying to leave the planet. He's done with Earth.
Yeah, exactly. He's so alienated he has to leave the planet of his birth, right? Yeah. So I think if the wealthy are any indication, people need work, and because the wealthy are not happy. There's no the happiest you can be is the upper middle class.
Yeah.
That's the happiest you can be.
Yeah, there's that
you
figure
have enough constraints.
Yeah. You have that figure about how you only need like 75,000 or maybe like something like that, $100,000 maybe now adjusted for inflation just to be okay. Right. Like you're good to go.
Right. So if you make like $250,000 a year, you're the happiest you can be.
Yeah,
that's the happiest you can be. Because if you get much more, you end up in this place where you're alienated from everyone else.
Yeah.
And you are totally alone because no one's as wealthy as you are.
Yeah.
And you have all these and you're not constrained by any kind of job that you have, motivation to try to do something. These constraints actually help us to live our lives. Too many constraints is bad. I can't go to the hospital. I can't go to the doctor. I can't feed my kid. Those are bad constraints.
Yeah.
But the constraint, I need to continue to be a member of this community, and I need to continue to support the people who rely on me. Those are good constraints. That's psychologically really healthy.
Yeah.
So I think this is not I'm not saying get rid of billionaires. I know everyone loves to say kill the billionaires. I'm saying let's just get rid of poverty.
Yeah.
And then if that means we have to tax billionaires, that's okay, because they don't need the money. They're fine.
And we have a model of this already. I mean, there are European countries that have figured this out, the happiness index, the idea of, okay, look, as long as everybody is making very good money in general and, is able to live life. One of the countries that comes to mind is Saudi Arabia. Right, like Saudi Arabia basically doles out money to everybody in their society, so their people are happy. That's because they have that wealth, they have that money, they can do that.
Right.
So there are models of this right now.
We should be like Saudi Arabia, but instead of oil, we have AI. That's really the society we should build. Yeah,
and I think that's
there is the problem with Saudi Arabia that they have all the slaves that are mostly outsiders that they bring in, and then they're they're in buildings and stuff. And
they're not slaves in the sense
they're indentured.
They're kind of they're the labor
slavery.
Force. They're the labor. But
they can't improve their situation, right?
Right.
So yeah.
But once they're done with their job,
like they're treating the Saudis,
I understand what you mean.
But your point is good, though. Your point is good about how the Saudis treat oil as this resource that then they socialize the benefits.
Socialize,
exactly. We should socialize the benefits of AI, and that means taxing the wealthy through wealth taxes. That means taxing, raising the capital gains tax to be the same as income tax, lower income tax, because why should we be taxing the thing that's shrinking, the work, right? Yeah. So we should lower income taxes, raise capital gains taxes, raise all the ways you tax wealth, estate taxes, property taxes on houses, wealth tax, which is just property tax on stocks and bonds, close the what's it called, the carried interest loop tax, tax loophole. There's probably 15 things that would put the tax burden onto AI instead of having the tax burden be on the flesh bags, the human workers, which is silly.
I just don't see that happening. I don't see that. I don't see, because here's the problem.
Politically,
because even if you're wealthy, and as you mentioned, you're wealthy, you're depressed because you have too much money. You're looking at this.
I just want everyone to be clear. They're not happy. Wealthy people are not.
But you know what makes them more unhappy is somebody like Uncle Sam going to them and saying, "Hey, I'm going to charge you more now."
It doesn't make them more unhappy. It doesn't. They don't prefer it.
Right.
They fight against it, but it actually makes them happier to be poorer.
But if they only knew. But the thing is,
it does. If they're poorer, they'd be happier. If you ask them, they'll tell you, I was happiest when I was building my business.
If that's the case, I don't know.
I was building my business.
Yeah, they say that
before they got wealthy.
But I don't see
when they were happy.
I don't see them giving out money. Really, you know what I mean? That's the other thing. Yeah. Some do,
that's because when you get
Bill Gates has the Gates Foundation and everything, so there are philanthropists out there.
That's just him laundering his reputation. But seriously, that's called big philanthropy. It's a huge scam. But Bill Gates is probably the least worst of all of them in that department. But but no, if you look at this, they'll say when I was building my business, I was the happiest. Yeah, that means before they were wealthy, right? That's when they were happiest. So they had those constraints. Oh, I have to achieve this. I have to do. As soon as they're truly wealthy, they're like,
okay, well, I got it. It's done. What do I do now?
Look at the sad moon god, the guy that trying to live forever, Brian's whatever guy. He's so sad. Clearly, the guy who wants to live forever, and he has a skin that looks like he's dead already.
Oh, I'm not sure who you're talking. I know Ray Kurzweil.
He's the longevity guy. No, he's the longevity guy. Brian, he was one of the founders of Braintree, and then, anyways, he seems so lonely. Look at him; he just looks like a sad sap lonely guy. He just has $350 million, so he like can do whatever he wants. So he's super unhappy. So unhappy he has to like pretend his whole identity is like trying to live forever, which is crazy, you know. So
it's because they're trying to find meaning.
You know,
they're trying to find meaning.
Yeah, they're right. They're trying to construct meaning.
Yeah.
Right.
So okay, so let
me tell you how we fix this. I'll tell you the political solution.
All right.
It's called ranked choice voting.
Okay, ranked choice voting.
It's called ranked choice voting. This is the solution. I think this is the solution. So ranked choice voting just means that, you know, instead of voting for just one person, like if you get your ballot, you know, you usually just vote for one. Like you can either vote for Joe Biden or you can vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
You vote for one.
Yeah.
You can, you know, or you could vote for a green candidate. You could vote for, you know, there's a whole list, but you just vote for one. Yeah. Ranked choice voting, there's a table and you vote first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, as many choices as you like.
Okay.
Okay. And when you do that, it means that if your first choice doesn't get 50% of the vote in the first round of counting, then that gets blocked off and your second choice counts.
Okay.
And if your second choice doesn't get 50%, then your third choice counts.
Okay.
Down as far as you go. You might just put two. You can even just put one, but you could put 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Right.
And when you do this, it changes politics for the better because it eliminates extremism from political discourse. So because if you and I are both running for office, if I say Mo's crazy and he'll run the country into a ditch and don't trust him, and he's what people say about Trump, what people say about Biden, he's demented, he's a pornographer, pedophile. People say these insane things. Okay. Yeah. I would never, as your opponent, say that because I want your people to put me as second.
Oh, I see.
In case you don't get 51%.
So you don't take polar opposites. You don't go, I'm going to be the exact opposite of what Adam's saying.
Right. And I don't say Mo's a bad guy, Mo's evil, don't vote for him. I say, Mo, we disagree. We disagree on fundamental things, but Mo's a family man. I trust him. Yeah. But because I want your people to also consider,
so then they might like me a lot, but they're like, this Adam guy's not so bad either.
He's got some good ideas. If Mo can't win, then I'd take Adam, right? Yeah. So it eliminates political extremism from the discourse because the politicians stop mudslinging because today mudslinging works.
Yes.
Point.
Well, yeah, and we call it the tyranny of the majority, right? Where because of the fact that you get this huge base that just believes in you and they think everybody else is wrong.
Right. Exactly. Those people would lose because they would put like 30% of the vote would be for Donald Trump, first choice, and now that would lose because not 50%. Yeah. And now all those people's second choices would count. Right. So you're not going to win if you're a divisive extremist candidate with ranked choice voting. Yeah. So ranked choice voting is a fantastic system. They use it in various parts of the country. Alaska uses ranked choice voting. Maine uses ranked choice voting. Nevada just adopted ranked choice voting. So it's sweeping the country in the last 20 years. It's being adopted in a lot of cities around the country for their mayoral and city council elections. Basically, the way you get this nationwide is you get it adopted in cities. Urbanites are like very in favor of this. So you can get the cities really easily. And then once you have most of the cities in your state ranked choice voting, then you can try to get it passed at the state level. And then the states adopt it. When you have the states adopt it, now senator elections, Congress elections are all now ranked choice voting. And now those people going to the Congress and the Senate aren't radicalized, crazy people. They're middle of the road people who talk about solutions, who want to solve problems, who want to, right? Yeah. So ranked choice voting is, I think, the solution to this because it eliminates it also eliminates the two-party system, right? Because the parties can still exist, but they stop controlling.
That is that to me has been in my opinion, one of the biggest problems is the two-party system because me too. This idea of we have George Carlin used to talk about this. We have 20 different flavors of ice cream, but only two parties.
right, exactly. And I don't care if there's more than two parties, but I just want even diversity inside of the parties to be able to actually be able to get power and thrive. Yeah. Yes. So ranked choice voting, I think, is the solution to really all of our problems, because once you have the right leadership at the helm, they can then do all these things. They can fix AI with a moratorium, or they can fix AI with more social services. They can fix immigration with actual immigration policy that would actually overhaul and fix our immigration system.
Yeah.
Or, they could actually fix things with real solutions instead of these sort of, sort of Band-Aids that are not healthy, not good.
I want to posit one more idea, and I want your input on this.
Sure.
You said that the way to solve this is through some form of policy or changing, like this idea of a rank-based system. What did you call it? You called it
ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting. Thank you. I didn't even know about this. But
that's great. Yeah.
But so I think that's perhaps a tall order because the way the current politics seem to be going, I just don't see that happening. And this is what I'd like to posit to you is the idea that I believe that human innovation, guys like you and me who are going to utilize the tech and find better ways to solve societal problems. I think that's the hope, like the guy who invented the internet. I don't know if you know the internet, when the internet was invented, I forget his name actually. I should know this, but he basically, when he invented the internet, he gave it away for free. He said, "Oh, this needs to be a basic good for everybody." If it weren't for that guy, and I'll put his name in the after. But if it weren't for him, then the internet would not have been this free, resource that everybody gets to use. And so I think similarly, there are going to be innovators out there that are going to come up with solutions, AI-driven solutions that are going to cost, pennies on the dollar, that then will perhaps be able to bring that to the masses. I think of somebody like, Khan Academy, right? Or some of these do-gooders out there that are going to try to bring some real solutions to society. I posit that I think those are going to be the ones that will help us usher in this this kind of
hellscape.
Yeah.
Oh no, you see a more positive. Yeah. I think that there's a possibility that something like this, some kind of tool, happens that does that, but I think it's unlikely. That's not the stated goal, right? The stated goal is a scarcity mindset goal, which is create a system, charge for it, make as much money as possible from it.
We just have to
automate as many jobs as possible.
But we just have to convince people that this abundance is possible. I mean, and I think the way to convince them is by building something that goes, hey, look, you have this now. Right?
Yeah. And I think it's more through a democratic political process to do that conviction. So I think Zoran Mandamni is actually part of this. So New York City is a ranked choice voting city.
Oh, they are. Okay.
So so that's how he was able to win, was because if there had been not ranked choice voting, then people would have said you can't vote for him because he won't win against the Republican or whatever. And so they say electability, but people in their conscience were like, no, we'd like Zoran, like we'd like free fast buses and universal childcare and to freeze the rent. We'd like these sort of baseline improvements to New Yorkers' lives. And then he won the primary. Hopefully he'll win the main election too. Again, because that's ranked choice voting. People can vote their conscience for their first choice. They can also put Mamdani as their second choice if they maybe they like someone else, but then they like Mamdani next. He's not so bad. He'll still pick up that vote, right? Because he's this smiley, great guy, which I trust him to be the mayor if I were in New York. But that's an example of what would happen in other environments with ranked choice voting is you would actually see people with good ideas actually get into power. Like right now, your and my lives, we know as 40-year-olds or whatever, as middle-aged people, that it's always a choice between two evils. That's what all of our presidential elections have been. That's what most of the elections that I do are. That's not because politics is garbage. That's because first past the post voting is garbage.
I see.
In a ranked choice system, you're picking among the best options. You're picking, man, I really like this lady, but this guy's really great too. Man, I don't know which one to put in what order. Like that's the actual way you get to when you have a robust ranked choice voting system. Yeah. And once you put the best people in power, they'll start to actually do things good for the people. And the people will start to think, hey, life can be better. Life can be a lot better. We can have great things. We can have fast and free buses and affordable housing, and our healthcare cannot be a complete utter, total, despicable nightmare like it is now in America. And so I think that's our biggest hope is ranked choice voting. Because also, by the way, ranked choice voting is supported by 90% of people, both right and left. So if you poll Americans and you say, are you in favor of ranked choice voting? They don't know what ranked choice voting is, some of them. As soon as they learn what it is, 90% of people are in favor of it.
In favor of it.
It's a nonpartisan issue. It is supported. The Republicans want it. The MAGA people want it.
Yeah.
The Republicans want it. The AOC crazy, woke people want it. The corporate Dems want it. Everybody wants it.
Yeah.
Because it means you get better choices, you get more choice, you get to express yourself more.
Well, I want to end on a hopeful note here, Adam, and I think that this is a good place to end, is this idea that we can usher this in, and we can start electing people in this way, and not have this really, really polar situation of Democrats versus Republicans, especially because let's be honest, and I hate to say this, but the Democratic base is in pieces, and
it is,
and so I'm not confident that we're that the Democratic Party as we know it is going to be able to make this swinging comeback. But as you mentioned,
without ranked choice voting, I think they would. I think they would be able to make it.
And that's why I think Mamdani is drawing a lot of attention right now, because he is a hopeful figure, and we are seeing people say, hey, yeah, he's not such a bad guy. And he's talking about some very, very, again, new ideas for how we're going to serve society.
Right.
So I think that is a good hopeful note to end on. I think we're headed in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can do it. We just have to make the right choices, not the wrong ones. I think one of the key things that I'm starting to realize about myself is I was like a libertarian in college, and I've always been kind of like a libertarian, like a red-blooded capitalist, like entrepreneur.
No, I didn't think so.
Free markets. Yeah, free markets and everything. Yeah. And what I've realized now is from reading those classical economists is that we're at the point now where libertarian socialistic ideas and policies actually are libertarian. Like having free healthcare is a libertarian idea in a post-labor economy. It is, without universal health care, you don't have a libertarian society. Everyone will be completely screwed because they won't have health insurance. They won't have health care.
Yeah.
So it's that's an interesting thing where people think like socialism is on the left and free markets are on the right. But actually, that's not true anymore. AI means that socialism is on the right.
Yeah.
If you are a right-wing libertarian, you should now start to want universal health care, taxing the wealthy. Like you should, that's just the next step of evolution of a free market.
And that you're reiterating my core,
bizarre thing.
You're reiterating the core message that I point out, which is that technology must serve humanity, right? Not the other way around. And so now that we're enabling tech to really, really, truly help us out in new and innovative and efficient ways with AI, we now have to find the way for it to serve humans. And
it's got to serve us.
It's got to serve us. It's got to restore, things like, justice and human dignity and all these things that we want as free people. We need tech to help us usher in more of that, because right now it doesn't feel like that.
This is a heady conversation, Mo.
It is.
I'm sorry. I took us down into the netherworld of blood running in the streets and billionaire created pandemics, but now we've come back to the high, bright grounds of we'll just fix our democracy and use technology for good. We'll see which one it is. It'll be one or the other.
It'll be one or the other.
We'll probably muddle along in the middle. Maybe we'll muddle along in the middle, but
I appreciate this conversation very much, Adam. Truly, your ideas are revolutionary. I think that people need to wake up to what is happening right now. They need to educate themselves, not just about AI and AI literacy, which I think is incredibly important nowadays, but they also need to educate themselves about what the future is going to look like and where they fit in it. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Mo.
It was a pleasure. And now I want to kind of point to the audience and say, hey, look, in a world where AI fulfills all your material needs, how would you choose to live your life, right? Let's, if everything's taken care of for you and you've got this universal healthcare and all of that stuff, what would you then do in this post-labor economic world? Please leave your comments on the episode, and I appreciate very much your viewership. And Adam, thank you again for all your insights. I'll tell you one thing. I personally would dive deeper into education, into community building, into helping other people thrive. And me personally, as a believer, I would devote more time to the Creator, to showing gratitude to the Creator. And these are things that, I think that we all need to spend more time doing. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you. This has been another episode of Beyond the Bite.